stop on this one just for a minute. You'll recognize this lady, Lady Margaret Thatcher. If I had, and several people during the course of this year have asked me this question, more often, I guess, than almost any other: who is your favorite personality that's ever visited the campus? And my answer is this lady right here. Now, I must tell you that when she first came, I was so excited, and she was here back in 1995. I was so excited about her coming, but then her staff came as a pre-visit to kind of get us ready for the fact that here she is, a head of state. She's coming to visit. You've got to do everything just right. Security has to be in place and all of this. This is back before we were quite as security conscious as we are today, but even then, they were very security conscious for her. So I talked to this person who was her handler. I didn't even know what a handler was, but the person who represented her made all the arrangements, and her handler said, David, she didn't call me Dr. Burks, that was fine, but she said, David, this is how you're going to act around Lady Margaret Thatcher. And I thought, well, sounds like a military machine as far as I'm supposed to act in a certain way. And that was about how she thought I was going to act. And so I'll fast forward to, and so I thought, she is going to be really tough to deal with. She is going to be very, very difficult. So we get to this time, and she says, here's how you do the question and answer period after she makes her presentation. She made the most wonderful presentation that I think I've ever heard in this auditorium about international affairs. Now, you'd have to take the context that was going on then. The fall of the Berlin Wall had taken place. You have to understand the key role she played along with Mr. Gorbachev and Mr. Bush and Mr. Reagan and all of that. And she was talking from a point of unbelievable leadership. And so I'm just kind of in awe of all that this woman has been able to do as a leader. And this handler says, now, we had two chairs up on stage. You can see where she's seated, and this is taken on the stage. If that picture were to continue to the left, and I have one in my office, I'm pictured on the left. I'm sitting in a chair on the left, which I was a little bit uncomfortable with, and I was acting as the master of ceremonies. And she said, after the presentation, she's made her speech, there's a Q&A, we have mics in the audience, and of course, when people ask a question, you can hear their question. But she said, David, you are to repeat the question. And if you get a nod from her, repeat it a second time. Now I thought, why would I do that? But I wasn't about to ask her. I just said, yes, ma'am. And so we get to that particular point in the presentation. The first question is asked. It's a long question. I wasn't sure I could even remember all of the pieces that were a part of it. It was more speech than it was a question. And so I tried my best to repeat that particular question. And she looks at me and she says, David, do you think I cannot hear? I heard the question. Didn't you hear the question? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, you don't need to repeat those. I'll take care of it. I think I can handle this. Well, and so I've always remembered that for reasons that would probably be obvious to you, but I felt like a fool. But at any rate, I was doing exactly what I was told to do. And the fact of the matter is, this woman didn't need any time to be able to think up an answer. I mean, she was on top of her game. She knew the answers to any question that might be asked, and it was just one of those electric evenings. Another side story of that, we had a reception, as we often did for these people who would visit, and it was over at our home. We at that time lived here next to the campus, and we had a lot of people there and dignitaries there for the reception, and sometimes these individuals can be kind of stiff. You know, it's, okay, we're going to go through the reception. I'm going to have my picture made with all these individuals, but let's just hurry and get through this as quickly as possible. That happens. Not Lady Margaret Thatcher. Despite what her handler said, that wasn't her way. She spoke to every person as though that was her best friend. And when all had gone through, she sat down, and I'll never forget, Stephen and Jeannie, my son Stephen, the youngest son, and his wife had just had a baby, Madison, and Madison was with them there after the reception, and they kind of came in the side door, and she took and held that baby and played with the little toes and talked to that baby as though she was a grandmother. And I thought, she's a real person. She's absolutely a down-to-earth, real person. If I'd get a message across to you today, it would be, I don't care how much success you achieve in life, be real. She was real, and I was so impressed with her from the time she stepped on campus until the time she